Every person that came here, because you being here is the blood that fuels creativity in this city, and that makes a big difference. My name is David Palmer. I've been writing for, many years, but when I started, I wanted to write like my grandfather, who I had never met. He died decades before I was born, and I wanted to write like him. And then one evening, I was sitting in a long, intense session with my psychiatrist. Actually, it was a bartender. And he said, "You can't emulate someone else's creativity. You need to write like Dave Palmer." And after that, I made a mantra. And I said, in my writing, I want to make them cry. I want to make them laugh. And I want to make them think. So I wrote a little short story here, and it's called Hearing and Seeing the Gospel in the Waffle House on a Saturday Morning. Take off my glasses because of my old man eyes. It was a quiet Saturday morning, and I was very tired from Friday night's adult libation activities. Through embellished stretches and yawns, I asked my son where he wanted to go for breakfast. And with every little artsy eclectic breakfast place here in our town, he chose Waffle House. We were some of the first customers of the day, arriving a few minutes after 7. We sat quietly in a booth by the window. He ordered a chocolate chip waffle and bacon, and I had some eggs. It was not long before a few customers began to slowly and quietly trickle through the doors, and when I raised my head from the game on my phone, I realized that there were 2 other tables now in the place. Both tables were single mothers and their young sons. The sons sat quietly, one playing a game and one drawing with some markers on paper. One of the mothers stood up and walked to the jukebox. I was worried. This peaceful morning was getting ready to be cut short by the thump of subwoofer-induced pop music. But she seemed to pause at the jukebox forever, looking through all the selections with care. At the same time, the door opened slowly and deliberately, and an elderly couple walked in, through the outer door and then slowly the inner door. They looked at the waitress behind the counter, their eyes imploring for direction. The waitresses were all pointing to a corner booth, and I could tell that the couple had known all along their destination, and the waitresses had just been waiting for them to arrive. Slowly and deliberately, they walked across the floor, his cane tapping lightly in front of him, and then dragging it along as he pulled it forward again. She was spry and attentive and faithful in what had been a lifelong service to him, and one could tell she was still in love. He was dressed purposely, pressed slacks and shine black shoes, and a matching dark brown jacket. It was not a sports coat, but something from another time. A time when things purchased were not disposable, and I could tell he had lived an orderly life. On his head was perched a small straw fedora. It was not pretentious as those worn these days by the wannabe hipsters, but fit who he was and spoke volumes as to his past and the life that he had lived. The couple eased gingerly into the booth, and I noticed her precision and guidance, ensuring he was safely seated. This was a relationship that had endured time. They had seen wars, they had seen presidents, but mostly they had learned to love each other and the commitment that comes with a continued investment in time. The waitress doted on this couple, and it appeared that she was their regular waitress. I heard him tell her today was very special. I heard him explain that he wanted something different than normal. Indeed, today was special. Today was his birthday. His back to me, and I could not see his face, as the waitress piled on non-committal hugs and shoulder squeezes, and as he turned to them, he beamed, as if light was being generated by the smile on his face. His wife loved him, and it was easy to see that while age had changed each other's outer appearance, she still saw him with the eyes of a young girl looking upon the hero of her life. She only took her eyes from him to acknowledge the insignificant movements of the service staff, and then they went right back to him. Deep in her eyes, I saw admiration and love and a hint of sadness. It's that type of sadness that can come at the end of a wonderful movie. A movie that one is so very glad to have watched and enjoyed so deeply and so thoroughly that we wish that movie would never end. It was at this moment that the young single mother standing at the jukebox finally chose a song and walked back to run her hands through the hair of her young son and sit down to breakfast. As the subtle strains of gospel music slid gently from the ceiling, the clank of dishes settled into the background, and the perfect orange sun began to peek across the trees into the windows of the Waffle House, I watched as the quiet older lady reached across the table and put her hand gently over her husband's and continued to look into his eyes. The most perfect moments in our world are very brief, and this one lasted but a second. Dad, Dad. I raised my head. Yes, son. I looked back to see my younger self and his deep brown eyes looking deeply into my soul. Did you just eat one of those jalapenos that are in your hash browns, he asked. Why do you ask, son? Your eyes got very watery. I figured they must be spicy. They are spicy, I told him, but they make you feel alive. The tenor in the gospel music filtered through the dark clank of dishes, and the sun shone through the window. And the divinity of this situation was not lost on this writer. Thank you.